When we listen to the radio, we never agree on the station.
Classic rock.
Hip-hop. Pop.
Guys, quiet. The one thing we do agree on, we all want an awesome free phone. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 free phones of your choice from brands you love, like Samsung, Motorola, and LG when you switch. Metro PCS. Wireless figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Free phone requires port. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Welcome to Define You Radio. Class is in session with your host, the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace. Are you ready to unapologetically build your confidence, achieve goals, and design a life worth living? Learn the life lessons and strategies to define your life, money, and business. Pens and papers ready? Class is now in session.
Oh my goodness, I so missed that last week. Welcome to Define You Radio. Classes in session. I am your host, the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace. You know the voice if you listened before, and if you're new, thank you so much. So if you guys are wondering what I'm talking about that I missed, if you have been keeping up with me on social media, you know I didn't do a show last week. But let me tell you guys, I just got back from New York. Okay, I got to throw that out there. And I was whipped and nay-nayed out. So if I would have did a show that Tuesday after I came back, would have been extra tired, extra dry. And you guys know I love extra, but the good kind of extra. So with that being said, make sure you follow and connect with the show on Define You Radio's Facebook page for updates and more. See, if you were following on Facebook, you would have known there was no live show when I went to New York. And I suggest you guys connect with me on Facebook in some way, shape, or form, because in New York, I went to the Embrace Your Cake conference given by my New York queen, Monique Denton Davis. You guys make sure you connect with her and Embrace Your Cake. And you also should be connected with Define You Movement. I'm just saying. But so in New York, I got to speak. I brought all my Southern belliness to New York. You know, they loved it. They vibed it. I should have brought some seasoning with me. I'm just saying, I'm Southern. Y'all know. But I had clam chowder for the first time ever. I don't even know if we have clams in Louisiana. I'm not being funny. I'm being serious. When it's cold here, we eat gumbo. So I had clam chowder there. Tastes a little bit like chicken, but it was so delicious. So I'm just telling you guys, hashtag clam chowder on that one. Walked in a fashion show at the conference, which I could do a check off on lifelong goals or my lifetime goals or whatever. My modeling career started and ended the same day I'm officially retired. It was quite interesting. And that's all I'm going to say. You definitely have to connect with me on Facebook to see where I've posted a picture or two. And I also posted a behind the scenes video of me learning how to walk like a model. Don't let the looks fool you. I'm quite goofy. So life is too short. So with that being said, enough of me. But like I said, I miss you guys so much that I had to talk. So before I forget also, let me wish a happy birthday to my pain in the side baby sister, Zenobia. Happy 39th. Yes, I have a sister. I'm not an only child like a lot of people think. So now that that's out the way, let's get into the show. Feels like I should play the intro again, but I'm not going to do that. Okay. This month, we are talking about taking risk and doing the unexpected. That's our series this month on Define You Radio. I am extremely, extremely excited. Like, seriously, I'm seriously excited about tonight because it is kicking off the month of November with someone I recently connected with. When I say fabulous, I'm not exaggerating. Everything from her beautifulness. I don't know. I know that's not a word, but hey, it's my show, so I'm going to make up a word, okay? Her personality, her humbleness, everything about her I love. I know you guys are going to love her too. I'm going to say her full government name as I bring her on the show. Let's welcome our kickoff guest for tonight, Dr. Kyla Nicole Lurry. Yay!
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I'm honored to be here, and that was a fabulous intro.
Girl, I be trying to work it on this end. I be working it. Because I was like, they got my audience knows if I bring somebody on, like you have to have that yay factor, that fabulous factor, and like when I connected with you, number one, I loved your picture, and you guys connect with Define You Radio so you can see that beautiful picture on her show badge and stuff, but like your personality is so fire, and it seems like it took forever to get to this show. I'm just saying.
The countdown is always the longest part of everything, especially when you're anticipating something and you're doing it. You're like, oh, why is it taking so long for this to come? I feel like I talk to her every other day. What's going on?
Right.
I understand.
I agree.
I definitely do.
Beautiful Kyla Nicole, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about you so they can see, why you're one of my favorite people.
Oh, sweet. Well, the first thing I have to do is very funny is when you started your intro, you said today is your baby sister's birthday, if I recall correctly, baby sister. And it's funny because today is my dad's birthday. And so that's kind of like, whoa. So I have to say happy birthday to my dad.
Yay.
Because he's a cool guy. But I'll spend forever talking about him, so I have to quickly move on. But for those of you that are listening, thank you so much again for tuning in. I hope that you definitely have a dynamic listening experience and we all can connect with each other. So my name is, as she said, Kyla Duckworth Lurry. I am the founder and CEO of Kyla Nicole, LLC, and it's kind of a multi-functioning business in actuality. I started off life coaching and writing books, and I kind of ventured into policy, which is my PH.d. is in law and public policy and public policy administration. So I ventured into that, and I decided that, with entrepreneurs, we have this thing where we get these ideas, we run after them, and we don't necessarily take the proper steps to prepare them. So because I am a policy freak, and I've gone to law school and things of that nature, I decided to couple that in with Kyla Nicole and help entrepreneurs legalize their businesses as far as getting all of their paperwork and documents in order, their contracts, their drafts, reviews, their policies, how their business is going to operate, SOPs. And so I kind of get to juggle both sides of that, and that's really neat. I'm really passionate about the coaching aspect for women. I actually have, over time, just developed this niche for trauma. I, unfortunately, get to talk about the things that everybody hates. Most people don't like to talk about. I get to really help people turn their tragedies into victories and the traumas that they have to kind of heal their soul so that they can actually discover their authentic self. And so that's what Kyla Nicole is all about. I have a few different ventures out here that I'm sure we'll get to as we progress through our interview. But that is the core of what I do and how I kind of do it every day. I have several books out, ebooks, working on some hardcover books now to actually come on out. So Kyla Nicole keeps me busy most days. And in my free time, I get to blog. So I'm very excited about that. I blog for a few magazines and other bloggers. And so that's kind of niche of Kyla. I'm a wife. I'm a mother, somebody's sister, a whole lot of people's friends. And, I'm just day by day, walking out my purpose and passionate about it.
Wow. Your 24 hours, do you take naps? I have questions. Like, do you take naps? I am a strong advocate of naps, nap time, siestas, whatever you want to call it. I need to take a nap just after hearing everything that you do.
Funny, I actually have not specialized in naps until this pregnancy. This pregnancy has definitely sat me down. I definitely have to have a nap in for at least an hour, typically every day. But before that, hopefully I don't get back to my naps. But I tend to balance very well. I really live by planners and calendars, and it kind of keeps me on track. I schedule my time off, to make sure that I'm investing in myself and my family and my friends. And so I don't, it sounds like a lot, but a lot of it is really, really being organized and prioritizing.
Now, you mentioned this pregnancy. I was waiting on you to open the door. So since you opened the door, what do you know what you're having? Would you like to share that? How far along you are? Give me the deets. I hadn't had a baby in 20 years.
Good grief. So that's funny. My oldest is 12, and my youngest is 7. So, and I've got pregnant with them very early on. Most people will be like, what? But I really did. I had my son when I was 17. And then I had my daughter 5.5 years later. So I was young and, I was doing my thing. And so pregnancy in your early teens and your early 20s opposed to your 30s is vastly different. And so I am pregnant with a little boy. I actually have about 3.5 or 4 weeks left to go. So he is coming fast, and he seems to be a little large guy. So we are very, very excited. But it has definitely been different for me this go round. I mean, my energy levels, I gained the most. I think I had every symptom in the book. I just moody, girl, you name it. And so it's been very, very interesting to me. But I have enjoyed it because I think there's just less pressure. When you are having babies early and you're on an agenda, I was full-time student back then, married, and then, law school and master's degree, all this stuff, juggling work and trying to figure out what my career was. So it was challenging. It was hard with the first, mediocre with the second, and now it just kind of feels like, okay, this is cool. So I feel like I've just sat around and been resting on my morals this go around because I feel more stable. I feel more established. I'm more secure in myself, my family. And so that, of course, is always a difference, which makes me wonder, like, how am I going to parent him? I hope he's not going to be very spoiled. I hope he's not going to this or that. So we'll see. We'll see how this happens for us, but it's definitely been a journey for sure.
I can imagine. And it's funny, like, I know, when I got pregnant and had my son, like you said, when you're late teens, because I got pregnant at 19, had him at 20, I was able to work 2 jobs. I was able to do what I need to do, no nap necessary. But it was a lot of hard work. I couldn't really enjoy being pregnant. Like, I didn't get that parenting magazine experience. And, my son is an only child. And one of the things I told my husband, if I ever get pregnant, he better be prepared to pull out the 401k and whatever other Ks we got going on, because he's going to have to stay home. He'll have to stay home because my stomach is weak. When I change, my nieces and stuff, like, it's not good for me. And but I know a lot of people that have gotten pregnant in their, late 30s. It seems like women are having babies later now. Or at least maybe I'm noticing it more. And I'm like, hats off to you, and I just, I say go get it. And it's no doubt in my mind if I had a child now, that child would be spoiled. I would send a warning out to the world because, definitely more stable, in a happy, healthy relationship. My son is 20, so that's like an extra person to spoil a kid. And just, I would be extra. I'm not even going to lie and say I hope not. I would be extra. But one thing I told my husband, his DNA combined with mine, we'd probably be at the school every day. I just don't know. We shall see.
Yeah.
God know what he doing, and he know me better than I know myself. So congratulations on a happy, healthy pregnancy, and I do believe you are one of the most beautiful pregnant ladies I've seen. You should be taking pictures and send them to those magazines and stuff. Modeling some pregnant clothes. That's what I.
My gosh.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You still got 3 weeks of pregnancy. I'm saying, send some pictures off.
This boy is so big that I don't even know what these next couple weeks is going to look like. Okay, I am limping around here. Okay, I'm like, I need a cane. What is going on? So it's definitely my husband and I talked briefly about if we were going to do it again or honey, I said, it's a wrap. This is it. I'm not doing it anymore. So we'll see how it goes. But our plan is, I think this is it for us.
Okay, well, we're going to definitely stay connected. So that way, if it happens again, I will send you a copy of this show to when you said it wasn't. So I want to go ahead and kind of get into the meat of, of the show. Now, I love that, what you said earlier, because as a businesswoman myself, and I'll be the first to admit, and most business owners, small business owners, unless you kind of went to school for it and you really come from that kind of family or friend background or whatever, you start a business and you figure out the legal aspects later. Do you find that to be true?
Oh, yeah. Typically, most entrepreneurs that I work with, I'm working with them in a crisis stage. For a long time, I felt like I was just under crisis management with people because I would, contract with businesses and, they would have full-on revenue coming in, things happening, and would not have a piece of paperwork in sight. And so I would be dealing with them when they're having an issue with the venue, when they're having an issue with contracts, when they have obligations and people don't hold up to the end or they get stiffed on some money. And so it was always like, we have to get ahead of this and we have to get these things in place to know what to do. I tell people all the time, a contract is for your protection and the other person's protection. It's good to draft up these types of agreements and documents while everything is stable. Everything is kind of on chill mode because, if you and your best friend go into business and it's a great idea and then there's a discrepancy over the money or a discrepancy within the schedule or whatever, that document is going to tell you what we said we would do when our emotions were not involved. And that's what you need because your emotions tend to get involved in things and it changes. And it can ruin friendships, relationships, businesses. It can ruin a lot if you don't have these things properly discussed and portioned out and labeled out.
And I agree 150%. Now, I watch Judge Judy and those court shows a lot. And you see so many, contract issues. And, well, we verbally agreed and everything else. And even if I do business with someone that's, quote, unquote, not a formal person or whatever, okay, text me what we just said, and I always say that, text me what we just said or send it to me in an email and everything else. And I find myself in this place because there's so much back end that you, as a business owner, it's kind of like, But I find myself in a place of needing, not wanting, needing to hire, employees and, at least a contract employee. So but I don't want to do that part. Like, I want to just say, okay, I want to do this in here. You just get the paperwork or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need naps in my life. So if I could delegate it out, I'm working towards more delegation in 2018.
Okay.
But that's a thing with me as far as like even thinking about hiring somebody contracted. I know most small business owners, eventually how that quote goes, if you do all the work yourself, you're only limited to what your two hands are capable of.
Right.
So to speak.
Right.
So I am needing to do that, but then on the back end, I'm like, people steal, people do stuff. Somebody might fall on purpose. Like I could have someone come to my house to pick up something on business time, and if they fall in my yard, that's something against my homeowner's insurance. I don't know if that was a question, statement, or frustration, but that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at as a small business owner, really looking into delegate, because I know I'm limiting my income.
And that's the purpose of having these particular documents in place, because, there are certain clauses and protections that are in place for you, your place of business, how you operate your business. And then in regards to the, like you said, having yourself, a successful business at some point has to train someone to be able to do what you can do so that it can free up your time to expand. And so that's something that you have to think of as a small business owner. Of course there are risks associated with that. But again, when you talk about contract employees and things of that nature, you have these mechanisms in place. What happens if we find that there's a discrepancy with our money? What happens with, we find that you're dishonest or there's a moral clause happening? You have people coming to pick up things from your property. Okay, then there's certain signed releases that need to be sent or said and signed before you come on these premises in the event that you do get injured or something happens. So that is the importance of having it, because those documents can address all of your concerns, and they can protect you and the people coming. It gives everybody fair game. With a contract, nobody's left in the dark. We both know what's happening. We have a meeting of the minds, and we've discussed it, and everybody knows what happens if it goes wrong.
We're gonna have a really good conversation post baby. Post baby.
Yes, ma'am. I am here. Because
I really, if you guys are wondering, like, Valencia, what business? I know you do da-da-da-da, but I also own a very successful organization and cleaning business. If you know anything about Louisiana, especially this area, we had the floods last year and, a lot of stuff going on. So I'm constantly, just know that it's extremely busy, time consuming, so on and so forth. And I know next year I really need to make sure my ducks are in a row, and then we're going to move on to the next question. I got to take care of them ducks, especially when I want, because I look at things like, a lot of the new construction contracts I want to go after and everything else, because they're popping up subdivisions like 200-300 houses in them. So of course I want those, jobs for my business, and I really need to get, people on, like I said, those ducks got to get lined up for me to do it how I want to do it and need to do it. So for all you guys that are on cleaning and organizing businesses, look at those subdivisions that's popping up, at least this way, and get with contractors. That's all I'm going to say. I can't give y'all all my business tips. I think people think I play on Facebook all day. But so we are talking tonight about the actual lesson, or title of the show is we're talking about taking your life back. And I know you talk about trauma and so on. So why don't you tell us what did you have to take your life back from?
Oh, man, that is it's such a loaded question. I have to figure out how to always make these types of questions short. I think for me it was a lot. We just in life in general, coming up in a single-parent household and then coming from divorce, family, and, kind of those precedents that set that, and, you know, it just starts so young. So for me, I think not having proper relationships defined, you know, led me to have toxic coping mechanisms. So, and it kind of spread from those toxic coping mechanisms to bad relationships, you know, dealing with, you know, just unhealthy things. So from abuse to divorce to, you know, having to rebuild my life, and then coming out of that to dealing with sexual assault. It was so many different things in my life that at one point I kind of had to wake up and say, okay, what am I doing and how am I doing it? How do I overcome, and how do I get myself healthy to the point where I can not only be a blessing to others, but really be a blessing to myself, because that's important. You know, it's not necessarily, you know, we spend a lot of time saying, well, I want to get whole for, you know, help other people. I want to get whole to bless here, bless there. But you actually have to get whole for yourself first, you know, because you can't help anybody else if you've not helped yourself. So I think I took my life back in numerous areas, and I worked really, really hard just to make sure that I was a whole functioning individual for me, my family, my friends, and it was just a process.
I love that you said that basically I have to get me together before I could help you. And I see that with a lot of people, you know, when you're connected to people and you know their quote unquote social media life or their public life or their everything's great life.
Right.
And then on the back end, you know, it's like, what? How you gonna tell somebody, you know, like real talk? And that's one of the things that, you know, I've said in my own life is that I can't tell you how to achieve goals and do whatever else in your life, and I'm not doing it in mine. You know,
right.
Because it comes from a different place. It comes from a different place, and I always debate on that part, because on one hand, I think you could, from the outside looking in, you could paint the house looking one way, but if the house is not right on the inside, then eventually somebody's going to open the door and see that your house dirty on the inside, even though all your shutters match your plants, you know. So I always think that's very interesting, and I think it's even more interesting that you studied law and policy in school, and which is a very intellectual, almost a non-feeling type of field, but yet you deal with people at the very softest parts of them when you talk about dealing with trauma. Like, how does that work? Like, how does your intellectual side and your, I don't want to say emotional side, but you know what I'm saying? Like that side, like how do they work together? Do you find them fighting each other, or do you like separate one part from the other? Or, cause I'm like not an emotional person.
Okay.
I'm going to just leave that there.
I am very weird, and I always tell people this. People don't believe me, but I am one of those really, really weird people, and I love it. I really do. It doesn't bother me at all. But so my brain compartmentalizes, and it often works like a computer. So for some, I think it's just the way God made me. They don't war against each other because I'm very logical when it comes to certain things. I'm very black and white when it comes to certain things. But I think the life experience has made me incredibly compassionate. So although I know that the world is very black and white, there's so much gray. And I realize that most people don't live in the black and white. They live in the gray. And so my job typically is when I meet with people and I talk to people, I realized that people live as a gray because they're incredibly dysfunctional. They are dysfunctional. They have bad coping mechanisms. They have learned how to deal with the cards that they've been dealt, and they've learned to get through it the best way that they can, but yet they don't necessarily want to address the black and the white. And so for me, when it comes to dealing with people, I'm real. I'm raw. And I tell people up front, you're not going to like what I say. And I am going to offend you. And I am going to get in your business. But I'm going to do that because that's important for you to actually be able to move forward in your life. You can't possibly expect to get whole, be whole, and live this life on purpose and walk it out by living in the little crevices and the spaces of the things in which you hide. And that's what most people do. You know, it's kind of like when people want something or they have something to say, and they say, well, I need your opinion. They're not really asking for your opinion or your thoughts. They really just want somebody to jump on their bandwagon. They want to convince you that their side is actually true, which is why all of the other details are actually left out. And so when I deal with people, I say, okay, and even with my kids, when a situation happens, they are very quick. They're like children to tell you what happened. No. Tell me what you did. That's typically how it started off. I don't really want to know about the particular situation because life is only really about 10 or 15% of what happens. For the vast majority of it, 90 to 95% of it is how you respond. So you have all the control, you have all the power over how you're going to respond and what you're going to do. The interesting part about that is what triggers you, because everybody has filters. So what I say to you, it sounds very normal coming out of my mouth, but how you hear it and perceive it is something completely different. So it's very, very interesting for me when it comes to dealing with people. I really, for a long time, and I laugh about it now, but for a long time I used to figure, I said, man, I just have the gift of pissivity. I just piss people off. And I just could not figure it out. You know, it used to bother me when I was younger because I would ask questions and I would upset people, and they would say you're evasive and you're hard, and like my own mother said to the day, she was like, you're just so hard with people. I said, really not. I love people. I love seeing them grow. I love seeing them excel. But I know the difference of being stuck in a place where you have no progress, where you hate something, where you're vastly unhappy, opposed to being in something that you love and you live for and you're free. I know what both of those feel like. And if I had a choice, I obviously would be in a place of living in freedom, not being bonded, down to foolishness, not having to feel left open and broken. So it's like I want everyone to live that way, but it's work. It's not going to come easy. It's not something that you're just going to, today I'm happy. No. You have to face your demons. You have to deal with the things that we did. And, we lived our life for a long time saying, that sometimes things just happen. Well, sometimes bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that's foreign to people because they say, well, I didn't do anything to deserve this, so why did it happen? Sometimes this is just the cards that are dealt, but what are you going to do? You can't change it. You can't go back. You can't convince it not to happen. So what are you going to do? Are you going to woe is me? Or are you going to figure out how to pick your life up and move forward? So, it's an interesting dynamic. It honestly is. Now, when it comes to the legal side of the world and business side of the world, I always say I would not want to sit across from me at the table. I would not, and so because of that, I am always conscious of myself. I'm consciously aware of, how I am, how I communicate, my tone, things like that, because for me now that is very black and white. And that's the purpose of having a document, though, because I don't do a lot without them because they're safeguards for me and you. And we don't have to argue over this document. We have to argue over everything else. We don't have to argue over this document. So let's make that as clear and concise as we possibly can.
Love it. And I have a question. I'm going to go back to that, but I wanted to say one of the things that I learned in philosophy class, maybe logic class, ethics, I don't know, one of those classes that I took, I learned that how not to argue with emotion. Because my teacher would say, it invalidates your argument. So, meaning like if you have discussions with people, and of course everybody's not going to agree because a lot of times people don't want to hear the truth. But if you come at them from an emotional side, it kind of takes air out of the balloon versus with facts. And so I said that class was one of the best and worst things to happen to me because simple fact, now if I argue with you, it's going to be strictly based on fact. And I don't consider myself to be I've been told, look, that's a disclaimer. I've been told, because I think I am very warm and energetic and everything else, but I'm a problem solver. So if someone comes to me and like you say, what do you think about this? And I'll ask, like, what Valencia do you want? Okay, because there's two in here. Do you want the listening, loving, it's going to be okay, Valencia, which shows up every blue moon? Or do you want the problem solver, Valencia, which is going to come at you with the facts of life? Because that's how I had to pick myself up. I couldn't worry about how I felt. I had to worry about the facts. The facts were I was a young single mom and I had a kid to feed. Facts. And that's like, I mean, and I'll tell people I know the statistics, and y'all, if you've listened to the show before or connected with me in any way, shape, or form, you know my story of, growing up with my mom being on drugs and she was murdered when I was 17. Google the statistics. So with that being said, okay, the statistics are based on how people felt. They felt, woe is me. I have every excuse in the book, so I'm going to do what I feel. But me reading those statistics based on how people felt they wanted to live their life or whatever wasn't going to feed my son, which was the only fact that I had to base my life change off of. Woo! Had to get that off my chest. With that being said, and I've never been an emotional person, and this kind of will roll us into my question. I've never been an emotional person because I didn't have time to be emotional. I always had things to do and things to take care of. Those were the facts. And so everything to me had a reason, and I did what had a reason to it, So when we talk about toxic coping mechanisms, or what are some of those things that you would put in that category? Like me not being an emotional person. I mean, I'm emotional. I don't know. Maybe I need to Google and take some type of personality test. But what are some toxic coping mechanisms that come to mind?
When you talk about toxic, it's such a large spectrum of what's toxic, because what may be toxic for you may not be toxic for me. And that's the first thing you have to understand. Because, that whole personal conviction or the possibility of me doing something harmful and you doing something harmful may look different. So when I talk about toxic, I talk about something that you're codependent on, because a person can be toxic. You know what I mean? You can have a situation with a person who anything that makes you say, if this happened, then I would do this, or if you would only hear me here, then I would feel like this. Something that says that this is my situation, this is my circumstance, and that thing is going to change how I respond or how I feel. And so that's toxic in a sense. That can be drinking, that can be sex, that can be drugs, that can be a person, that can be a job, that can be money, that can be anything that you have to depend on to change your mood, to change your environment. Something that you have to count on to make you happy is toxic. Because those pleasures that you have, for me, a lot of it is a motive behind the things that you do, not necessarily the things that people do. And so when I meet with people and I talk to them, I I am a very why person. And you will find that if you started having your conversations with people that have wronged you, offended you, harmed you, or even themselves, and you ask them why, typically they have been offended, they're upset, they're bitter about something, but their why typically is not logical. So, I did this because they yelled. And you think, wait, so that made you cuss them all the way out? Like that's what triggered it. And it's not logical, but what has happened is something triggered a behavior or a feeling inside of them. And that trigger is what forced them to respond the way they responded. That's a toxic or negative behavior, because what that means is you don't have effective communication skills. So a lot of times it's all about seeing and hearing what's behind what's actually happening. When you go on a date, like I would talk to a lot of single women all the time, and, they would be like, men are this and they're that, and I can't do this. And you start to ask, well, what kind of men are you dating? Where are you getting them from? And when you sit down and talk to them, what are y'all talking about? Because I found that a lot of people are unsuccessful in dating. They have no idea what questions to ask. They have no idea how to interpret the message behind the message. And this is what makes their relationships seemingly not workable. If I sit down with you, I'm not going to ask you, well, where do you work? What do you do? How do you do it? No, what I want to know is, how often do you talk to your mother? When you have a bad day, what does that look like? You know what I mean? So when you get off work, walk me through your night, because there are lots of things. There are lots of red flags in everything that people do. They just miss them. And when they miss the flag, they're disappointed, they're upset, they're disgruntled. But no, they were there. You just missed them. Your eyes weren't trained to read them or see them. And so, the behavior that's toxic, a lot of times we will look and we'll say, well, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're sexing, they're this. Typically, those are just outward things. All of the things that are happening on the inside are things that you can't even see. So it's very interesting when you talk about toxic behaviors. And so I really had to just narrow it down to say that anything that's going to make you dependent upon something else to change your who, what, when, where, why, how is a toxic thing. Whatever that is, it's toxic, and you got to deal with that.
Love that. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this show myself and take notes. But it's very interesting that you touched on relationships and single women, because I look at all the women I know and or I am connected with. Very few are married. Even fewer are happily married. And I will say, if y'all know me, y'all know this is not my first rodeo. However, this is the only rodeo that was worth the price of admission. And the thing is, with my husband, when we met, it was very much a been there, done that. I'm not interested in getting married again. I'm not interested in being in a, I want a stable relationship where we're not dating other people, but nothing serious. That was our literally me and him. He felt the same way. I felt the same way. So being that we had no expectations put on each other, we actually built a friendship, because we just went in it just to hang out and have fun. And we learned so many things about each other. And then, it was kind of like, well, honestly, in my head, okay, well, I'm going to have to cuff him. I'm going to have to cook. And I hate to cook. I can cook. I hate to cook. So I was like, I'm going to have to put this wrist to work. Now I'm just playing. But, I knew I wanted to be with him, and he knew he wanted to be with me, even though coming in the gate, so to speak, that was not a discussion for us. And I think these days women want this man with a 6-pack, a 10-figure job and everything else, and they're walking around, I have a checklist, and your checklist has you still single. Girl, that's a whole other show. Whew, just that discussion. And then what I find is, and I'm sure you'll agree, a a lot of them with the checklist will end up in relationships that's completely off the grid, like completely left.
Oh yeah.
That's a, like I said, that's a whole other show.
That's a whole nother conversation, really.
Yeah.
We have to do one just about singles and relationships because they hurt out here.
I'm putting that on the 2018. Y'all stay tuned because I could guarantee you Miss Kyla Nicole will be back. Because that show there. But so let's talk about writing. Your writing. I know you have a few things out there, working on a few things. What did writing do for you personally?
Cool. So I actually started writing by accident. Now I've written as a child, as a teen. It was my thing. For me, writing was an expression of how I thought and how I felt. Because as a growing up, like I said, I was weird, and so if people follow me or they talk to me, they'll be like, why does she keep saying she's weird? Because I just have an interesting way of thinking. I love the way that God wired me and how God made me, but I am such an out-of-the-box, logical, crazy, radical, safe, cautious thinker. All of those words, you're like, wait, one kind of contradicts the other. So when I would write, I was able to compartmentalize and express myself. And so I did that all the way up into college until I really just could not get the time to do it anymore. And then I went through my divorce. And as I was going through my divorce, I had to kind of rediscover who I was. I had to rediscover what I wanted. And I had to kind of walk through all of the hurts that I had to overcome. And so my first book, 15 Ways to Improve Your Reality, was not supposed to be a book. It really was a journal that, as my status changed, financial, marital, all of that, I began to experience a lot of hurts with that. People I thought were going to be in my life forever left. Things that I thought would always be wasn't there. Relationships changed. My quality of life changed. My health changed. And so I had to start over. And so I began to write about these different topics and things that I had to reevaluate for myself and work through for myself. And one day I woke up and it was just like, I felt like I was being led to release it. So I did it. And since then, I've kind of picked back up that love. And that was in 2012. And so I just started writing. And I wrote a series of things. Ebooks and books, and then I started blogging, at my own website, because I figured it was my platform. I could say what I wanted to say. I didn't have to appease anybody. I didn't have to sugarcoat anything. I didn't have to worry if the content wasn't going to be liked. I said, it's mine. And that's one of the reasons that I have my blog site and I have my website. Of course, it's there for services, but I get to wake up and write about what I want to write about. And it's truth, and it feels good, and it speaks well, and it represents me well, and I wanted that, and so I said, I'm going to keep this going. And so now when I write, of course I write to advocate, of course I write to shed light on topics and speak my truth and other people's truth, but I don't have to be conformed to the commercial standard. One of Kyla Nicole's biggest slogans is, you don't have to be what society says you are. It's kind of how you were talking earlier, statistics. Statistically, I had a baby at 17. I'm not supposed to have a PH.D. I'm not even supposed to have made it to the master's degree level. I'm not supposed to be, I got divorced. I'm supposed to be a bitter black woman, but I'm not. My kids are supposed to be jacked up, but they're not. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, you don't have to be what society says you are. You are your choices. You're not your situation or your circumstances, but you are your decisions.
I'm going to have to go back and type that on the page in case somebody missed that. You're a rule breaker. I love it. You're a rule breaker. Like, dang the statistics. I'm a do me. Tell me what you think, and I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. And I love that because a lot of people use that excuse as being a young parent to why they're not doing anything with their lives. And here it is with your phenomenal self. You're doing like everything and pregnant. That's the title of your next book. I put it write that down. Write that down.
I'm doing it all and pregnant.
Yes. I will be at the book signing because here, people have so many excuses, and literally you still like rolling with it and pregnant. And I love that and so admire that about you. Just you being a rule breaker and like not I know you know what all the statistics say, and you're just so amazing, and then even some. So I just want to very much just thank you for showing up and showing out, because I think a lot as, women of color, which I think is the politically correct term, but as women of color, the media will paint a certain portrait, and people will get used to that, and they will tell you you're different from everybody else. And it's not necessarily that you are quote unquote different. It's where you getting your information on women of color.
Right.
That's a whole other show.
And it's how it's depicted. And that's a whole other show now, because we definitely have to have that discussion about the outrage that women have, that they're depicted a certain way, but yet they constantly perpetuate the cycle of what they're being portrayed as. But don't get me started. I'm not going to take up the rest of our show talking about that, but that's just a little nugget.
Baby, I tell people this is why I do a radio show and not like a live thing, because the look on my face was that hashtag say it.
Wow. But, it's the same thing with those excuses, A lot of times there's two ways I feel about excuses. And one thing that I teach my children, I say we don't make excuses because excuses keep you average. Your excuse is the baseline for your life, and that will keep you in a box, and you're not in a box. So that's one thing. But the other thing that I feel about excuses, when we're talking about an excuse or a justification as to why we're not doing something, we really have to evaluate the level of fear in that excuse, because a lot of times our fears are disguised as our excuses, and it'll keep you from moving forward and progressing in your life because you're afraid, and you tangibly will find things to pick up to say, well, this is why I can't. And so I always tell people, and I encourage them, I don't care how old you are, I don't care what they say. Who is they? You can do what it is that you decide or determine that you can do. If you're not happy with your life, it's because you're not doing anything to change it. If you don't like your situation, figure out what you're going to do to change it. It's like you don't have a choice. Are you going to sit and be miserable, or are you going to figure it out? And change looks different for everybody. If you say, well, I'm not making ends meet over this, what are you going to do to fix that? Are you going to go back to school? Are you going to get a certificate? How are you going to increase your skill level? Are you going to pick up a part-time job? Tell me what you're going to do, because it doesn't have to be the max of what they say you should do. Who is they? What do you need to do to advance your life forward? That's up to you.
Because you cannot write a check from they to your mortgage, light bill, or any of the above. I love that. Oh, my goodness. I just got like 3. I might have to do like a whole month of Kyla post-baby. Because I just got like 3-4 shows out of everything that you said tonight. So I told you that time goes by fast. Y'all know it's like 7 minutes left. Let's talk about the podcast, because I want to make sure that I'm in the know, so I could hear it. I know the audience is in love with you already, and they want to hear it. So let's talk a little bit about your new baby, so to speak.
So my latest first venture, and it's set to release. Finally, I have a date, November 20th, so y'all hold me to it. I will be releasing my very first podcast, which is something that I have wanted to do for a very long time, but I could never get on the right timetable to do it. And so I am very excited about it. It is Kyla Nicole presents Pause and Press Play. And it gives me life thinking about it, because this entire podcast, which of course will be Kyla, you'll laugh, you might cry, you might get mad, you might, you can probably go through all the emotions imaginable. But a part of that is being able to pause and hear the contents of what's being said. So I used to do a lot of lives, which I said in the new year I'm going to get back to it. But I used to do a lot of lives on a lot of different platforms. And I just hated that from the comments, from the people, from myself, you had to look a certain kind of way. You had to sound a certain kind of way. All these things, they say the audience needs a visual, but what I found is that when you give them a visual, they pay more attention to what's the visualized situation opposed to what's happening. And I didn't like that. I wanted people to hear what I had to say because I felt like what I was saying was worth more than what I could ever look like. And so I said, I'm not going to be the girl. I can't be the girl that gets up and has a face full of makeup and hair beat and nail. I'm just not that girl. I praise God for people who have it. I think people look wonderful. I admire them. I'm like, wow. But that's not Kyla. I'm the girl who I can go out of the house looking a mess and really be okay, because I like to say, hey, you can talk about what I look like, but what you can't see, these investments, this family, this happiness, that's what matters when you're talking about that. So Pause and Press Play is an extension of who I am to the core, and this first edition is going to be the half-baked edition. And we're going to be talking about all the things that we're essentially half-baked in, which is most things in life. When you think about baking or you think about cooking, you make something, it tastes great, but it's something missing. Might be some salt, might be some pepper. You maybe didn't put enough eggs, maybe didn't put enough flour. And so it'll be the half-baked edition. And it's just going to run through things from, your successes to your failures, your inner thoughts, your relationships. Just it's going to touch on so many different angles of life and how we are half-baked and we don't even realize it. And because it talks about this, for example, earlier you mentioned marriage. You have all these people that are married, but they're not fulfilled in their marriage, and they wonder why. And it's little things that they're doing that they don't even realize that they're doing, but they're half-baked, and they can't quite get the cake to rise. And so this type of things that we're going to be talking about, that's going to say, hey, you got to check yourself. And so after that, hopefully, then I'll be I'm actually working on the next book, which is, I think it's set to pre-release sometime by the end of this month, The Game of Life. And it's the 15 winning lessons. And it's kind of a sequel to 15 Ways to Improve Your Reality. And, of course, all these things you can get on my website, KylaNicole.org. That first book talks about behaviors and things that we have as women that we have to deal with to get our reality better. Gossiping, lying, taming our emotions, self-preservation, being workaholics, defining our success, topics like that. Well, this next set of 15 winning lessons are going to be things that hopefully if you've dealt with the first hand, now you can start to deal with this other one, which is your focus, which is your thoughts, your choices, your finances, things of that nature that says, okay, this is the next phase of what you have to do. Once you get you together, how are you going to get your around surroundings better? So that's kind of where I am in that sense. And, of course, like I said, I blog for a few different websites. People can keep up with me on Instagram and social media, Dr. Kyla Nicole, Lurry. I'm out there. I always tell people I'm not hard to find. Some people probably wish I was hard to find, but I'm really not hard to find. I'm excited.
Okay, I want to make sure because I am posting you said November 20th or the 21st?
November 20th is when the podcast releases.
Okay, and how can we listen or connect with it? Can we just go to your website and find it there or?
So what I am doing for everyone is I tell people if they're following me on social media, which I said Instagram is Dr. Kyla Nicole Lurry, Twitter, Dr. Kyla Nicole, I will post a link because it's going to be on iTunes and they're actually working on getting that up, I believe, this weekend, so that's very exciting. And I hope that they will allow me to release the entire first half of the volume. And so that'll be 6 good podcast episodes for everyone to kind of plug in and listen away. And so I will post a link. It is going to be on iTunes unless something changes, but I'll let everybody know to go ahead and follow me, because as the time gets close, I will definitely be letting everyone know, sharing, tagging, all of that, because I definitely want people to be able to tune in. And it will be on the website as well, where to go and what to do. So we will definitely make sure that you guys hear about it and have access to it.
Yes, because I'm putting this on my calendar and on the page, and I want to make sure. I can't wait, because it's I'm excited just to see. And if you guys if you're on Define You Radio's Facebook page and scroll down, I have one of the pictures for the podcast posted, and she has these curlers in her hair, and which I think is so cute. I was like, I need to buy a wig and put some curlers in there and take a picture. That's cute. That's my solution for every hairstyle I want. But
okay, some curls.
Girl, I'm telling you, it is. I'm excited about the podcast and definitely the book project. And you guys need to get one. I would say get one, deal with the inside with part 1 of her book, and then part 2, the other 15. Go in order, show your support, get both of them, but read them in order. Because if someone can be everything and pregnant, she got quite a few lessons in her that we all could take notes on. It has been an awesome show. I just don't even know what to say in my life right now. I posted the website, so you guys definitely make sure you connect with Dr. Kyla Nicole. She's awesome, and I'm living my pregnant life through her. And I want to say, do you have a tip you would like to leave the audience with, and any last quote or tip you'd like to leave them with before we close out tonight's show?
Yes, for sure. We are at the end of the year. 2018 is quickly approaching us. And I really want to just encourage people to really do a self-evaluation at the end of the year. It's something that I do faithfully. You evaluate your relationships, evaluate your circles, evaluate your choices, your friends. Do your vision boards, because they matter. Set your goals out, put it before you, and really, really try your best to start off the year fresh in every area of your life, finances, mentally, physically, spiritually. I really, really encourage people to do that so that you can live your best life. You want to be authentic, but you want to live on purpose. You don't want to just let the days trickle by and you reflect and you have nothing left to give or nothing to accomplish. And so that would be my encouragement for the time. You guys have plenty of time to get these things in order, and start now. Don't start in December. Start today.
I love that. And I already said some people not going to cross over from 2017 to 2018. I've passed warnings. Nobody should be shocked if they get left in this year. It's a whole new season coming up.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. With that being said, Dr. Kyla Nicole, thank you so much for coming on. I have learned a lot. I'm going to really go back and listen to this show so I could take my full notes, because I always say class is in session. Congratulations on everything. I can't wait to hear the podcast and see the new book drop. Guys, make sure you connect with her at Kyla, that's Kyla Nicole, NICOLE.org. And it's also posted on the page and will also be on the website. With that being said, it was a phenomenal show. Pens and papers down, guys. I hope you enjoyed tonight's guest. Like I said, connect with her. Pens and papers down. Class is officially over. Make sure you join us next week, same time, same place. And hopefully I'll see you guys this Saturday in Houston, Texas at Define You Live. I'm deciding on the song I'm going to walk out on. And if you know me, you know I'm going to walk it out for real. So with that being said, remember only you can define you. You guys have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Define You Radio. Class is in session. Connect with the show at www.defineyouradio.com. Pens and papers down. Class is over.
When we listen to the radio, we never agree on the station.
Classic rock.
Hip-hop. Pop. Guys, quiet. The one thing we do agree on, we all want an awesome free phone. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 free phones of your choice from brands you love, like Samsung, Motorola, and LG when you switch. Metro PCS. Wireless figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Free phone requires port. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
When we listen to the radio, we never agree on the station.
Classic rock.
Hip-hop. Pop. Guys, quiet. The one thing we do agree on, we all want an awesome free phone. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 free phones of your choice from brands you love, like Samsung, Motorola, and LG when you switch. Metro PCS. Wireless figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Free phone requires port. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.